A single question made a stranger reveal her deepest fear to me in under 10 minutes. Not because I was special, not because of my looks, not because of status. Because I understood something Machiavelli wrote 500 years ago. The one who asks the right questions controls the conversation. The one who controls the conversation controls the outcome. Most men talk. They perform. They try to impress. And women forget them by morning. But the man who asks, he becomes a mystery. He becomes the exception. He becomes the one she tells her friends about. Today, you get 15 questions. Not small talk. Not surface-level garbage that leads nowhere. These are psychological keys. Each one unlocks a different door inside her mind. But I need to warn you about something first. Question 11 is dangerous. Use it wrong, and she will shut down completely. I will show you exactly how to handle it when we get there. And question 7? That one plants you in her memory for months. Years, even. Pay close attention to the delivery. Let us begin. Question 1. What would you do if you knew you could not fail? This is not casual conversation. This is a mirror. Robert Greene explains in his work that people hide their true desires behind walls of practicality. They tell themselves stories about why they cannot have what they want. The responsible choice, the safe path, the logical decision. But underneath lives the truth. When you ask this question, you are not asking what she does for work. You are not asking about her weekend plans. You are reaching into the place she protects. Her ambition, her hunger, her vision of the life she secretly wants. Most men are too weak to go here. They fear depth because depth requires them to show up fully. So they stay in shallow water. Safe, boring, forgettable. But you are different. Here is how this plays out. She might say she would start a business. Now you know ambition drives her. She respects men who build, men who take risks. She might say she would move to another country. Now you see her spirit. She craves freedom, adventure, escape from the ordinary. She might say she would write a book. Now you understand her inner world matters to her. Ideas, expression, legacy. Whatever she reveals becomes your map. Jung called this touching the shadow. The parts of ourselves we hide from the world. When you create space for her shadow to breathe, she feels something rare. Permission. Permission to be more than the polished version she shows everyone else. And the man who gives her that permission? She does not forget him. But here is the critical piece most men miss. Do not react with judgment. Do not rush to share your own answer. Do not try to one-up her dream with yours. Simply hold the space. Nod. Let a small silence land. Then say something like this. That tells me something important about you. Nothing more. Let her wonder what you saw. Let her fill the gap with curiosity about your perception. Machiavelli understood that power lives in restraint. The man who reveals everything has nothing left to discover. But the man who hints, who suggests, who leaves space, he becomes a puzzle she wants to solve. Now, the next question requires something most men lack completely. The courage to hear an uncomfortable truth. Question 2. What do most people get wrong about you? This question cuts through everything. Every woman walks through the world being seen incorrectly. People judge her appearance. They assume her personality. They project their own expectations onto her face, her voice, her choices. And she carries the weight of those false images every single day. When you ask this question, you are saying something powerful without words. You are telling her that you do not accept the surface, that you suspect there is more. This is what Nietzsche meant when he spoke of seeing beyond the mask. Society demands we perform. We become actors in the theater of other people's expectations, but the true self, the authentic core, that hides beneath layers of protection. She might say, people think she is cold. Now you understand she has been misread her whole life. Others saw confidence and called it arrogance, saw boundaries and called it distance. She might say, people think she has everything figured out. Now you see the pressure, the exhaustion of appearing strong when she feels uncertain inside. She might say, people think she is too serious. Now you know she hides her playful side. She only reveals it to those who earn access. Each answer is an invitation. She is telling you where the real her lives, and she is watching to see if you are brave enough to meet her there. Here is what you do next. After she answers, pause for 2 full seconds. Let the weight of her words settle. Then say this, I think I see what they miss. You do not explain. You do not list what you noticed. You simply plant the seed. Now her mind races. What did he see? How did he look past what everyone else accepts? Schopenhauer wrote that the first step to being someone is to stop appearing to be something. When you demonstrate that you understand this truth about human nature, you separate yourself from every man who only scratched her surface. Those were the first 2 questions. Already you have tools most men never discover. But the next question goes somewhere darker. Somewhere most men are too afraid to explore. Stay with me. Question 3. What is something you have never told anyone? Stop. Before you use this one, understand something. This question is a blade. Handled correctly, it cuts through every wall she has built. Handled poorly, it makes you look like an interrogator. A stranger digging where he does not belong. Timing is everything. Machiavelli taught that the wise man waits for the moment when defenses lower naturally. You do not force entry. You recognize when the door opens on its own. So when do you use this question? Only after trust has been established. Only after she has already shared something personal. Only when the conversation has moved past the shallow and into the real. Never on a first meeting. Never when she seems guarded. Never as an opener. But when the moment is right, this question does something extraordinary. It creates a secret between you. Freud understood that secrets bind people together. When someone reveals what they have hidden from the world, they invest part of themselves in you. You become the keeper of something precious. And here is the psychology most men miss completely. She does not need to reveal something massive. It does not have to be trauma. It does not have to be dark. It might be a small fear she finds embarrassing. A guilty pleasure she hides from friends. A belief she holds that others might judge. The size of the secret matters less than the act of sharing it. When she gives you something no one else has, a bond forms instantly. You are no longer a stranger. You are now someone who holds a piece of her hidden self. Robert Greene calls this creating complicity. Partners in a private world that excludes everyone else. Here is how you set it up. Do not just ask the question cold. Frame it first. Say something like this. I believe everyone carries at least one thing they have never spoken out loud. Something small, maybe, but something real. Pause. Let that land. Then ask softly. What is yours? The frame matters. You normalized it. You made it safe. You removed the pressure of expectation. And when she answers, do not react with shock. Do not laugh nervously. Do not rush to fill the silence. Simply nod. Hold her gaze and say, thank you for trusting me with that. Those 7 words do more than any clever response. They honor what she gave you. They prove you understand the weight of the moment. And now you share something too. Not bigger, not competitive. Something of equal vulnerability. This exchange creates what Hobbes described as a covenant, an unspoken agreement of mutual trust. And covenants are not easily broken. Now, before we continue, I need to tell you about a mistake I made. A mistake that taught me more than any book ever could. 3 years ago, I met a woman at a conference. Intelligent, guarded, the kind of person who had heard every line and seen through every game. I asked her surface questions. Where are you from? What do you do? How do you like the event? She answered politely, smiled when appropriate, and I could see it in her eyes. She was bored. I was losing her. So I took a risk. I stopped talking about topics and started asking about her truth. I asked what most people failed to understand about her. Her entire energy shifted. She leaned forward. Her answers grew longer, more real, more alive. We talked for 2 hours. She missed 2 sessions she had planned to attend. At the end, she said something I never forgot. You are the first person at this entire event who actually wanted to know me. That night, I understood what Machiavelli meant about the difference between those who speak and those who listen, those who perform and those who penetrate. I learned that the right question at the right moment is worth more than an hour of impressive conversation. That lesson changed everything. Question 4. What is a belief you hold that most people would disagree with? This question separates you immediately. Most men are terrified of disagreement. They nod along. They validate everything. They become mirrors reflecting back whatever she wants to hear. And women see through it instantly. Peterson speaks often about the value of authentic disagreement. When 2 people can hold different views and still respect each other, something rare happens. Real conversation becomes possible. This question invites her to share an unpopular opinion, a view she normally hides to avoid conflict. Maybe she believes something unconventional about relationships. Maybe she holds a political view her friends would reject. Maybe she sees the world through a lens that others have criticized. Whatever it is, she rarely gets to speak it freely. When you ask this question, you signal something powerful. You can handle complexity. You will not crumble at disagreement. You are strong enough to hear her real thoughts without needing them to match your own. This is what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote about the strength required to consider opposing views. Weak men need agreement. Strong men seek truth. Here is the critical part. When she shares her belief, do not immediately agree or disagree. Ask her why she holds it. What experience led you to that? Now you have moved beyond opinion into origin. You are exploring the story behind the thought, the life that shaped the belief. This is depth. This is what creates connection that lasts. And here is a warning. If you disagree with her view, do not attack it. Do not try to change her mind. Simply say, I see it differently, but I understand why you arrived there. That response shows strength without aggression, confidence without arrogance. Jung wrote that the meeting of 2 personalities is like the contact of 2 chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. This question creates that reaction, not through agreement, through authentic exchange. 4 questions deep. You now understand what separates forgettable men from those she remembers. But question 5 enters territory most men avoid their entire lives. The territory of her wounds. Question 5. What is a wound you carry that made you stronger? This is sacred ground. You are not asking about surface struggles, not a bad day at work, not a minor disappointment. You are asking about the moments that broke her open and forced her to rebuild. Nietzsche wrote that what does not kill us makes us stronger. But he understood something deeper too. The process of becoming stronger through pain is isolating. Most people never witness it. They only see the result. When you ask this question, you are asking to witness the process. Her divorce, her betrayal, her loss, her failure that haunted her for years. Whatever she carries, she has likely told very few people, maybe no one. Why? Because vulnerability requires safety. And most men do not create safety. They create performance spaces where she must remain polished and pleasant. You are offering something different. But here is where most men destroy the moment. They hear her wound and immediately try to fix it. They offer solutions, advice, perspective she did not ask for. This is ego disguised as help. She does not need you to fix what happened years ago. She needs you to witness it, to honor it, to sit in the weight of it without running. Albert Ellis taught that emotional validation precedes any rational discussion. Before the mind can process, the heart must feel heard. So when she shares her wound, you do one thing. You stay present. Do not look away. Do not check your phone. Do not shift the conversation to yourself. Simply say, "That took strength to survive. I see that in you now." Those words do not minimize. They do not dramatize. They acknowledge the cost and honor the outcome. And here is what happens psychologically. When someone witnesses our pain without judgment, we bond to them at a primal level. Freud called this the transference of emotional significance. The person who holds space for our suffering becomes significant in ways logic cannot explain. She will connect you to her healing, to her strength, to the version of herself that survived. And that connection does not fade. Now we enter dangerous territory. The next question can backfire badly if you miss the signals. Before I give you question 6, you need to understand something about female psychology that most men never learn. Women test. Not consciously, not maliciously, but instinctively. When a woman senses that a man might be significant, she tests his frame, his consistency, his strength under pressure. Machiavelli observed that people reveal their true nature only when challenged. Comfort hides character. Difficulty exposes it. So when you ask deep questions, she may test you. She might deflect with humor. She might challenge why you want to know. She might give a surface answer to see if you accept it or push deeper. These tests are not rejection. They are evaluation. Here is how you handle them. If she deflects with humor, smile and hold your ground. Say something like, "Nice try, but I actually want to know." If she asks why you are asking, tell the truth. "Because I am more interested in who you are than what you do." If she gives a shallow answer, wait. Do not fill the silence. Often she will continue on her own once she sees you are patient enough to wait for the real answer. The man who folds at the first sign of resistance proves he was never serious. The man who holds steady proves he can handle her complexity. Robert Greene writes about this in the context of power. The person who reacts loses leverage. The person who remains calm controls the dynamic. Remember this when the tests come. And they will come. Question 6. What do you need that you have stopped asking for? This question reaches into a place she has abandoned. Every woman has needs she stopped voicing. Maybe she asked for affection and was called needy. Maybe she asked for support and was told to handle it herself. Maybe she asked for understanding and was met with dismissal, so she stopped asking. She buried the need. She decided it was safer to expect nothing than to be disappointed again. Epictetus taught that we suffer not from events, but from our judgments about them. Over time, she judged her own needs as too much, as unreasonable, as weakness. But the need did not disappear. It went underground. When you ask this question, you are excavating what she buried. Maybe she needs quality time, but stopped requesting it because past partners made her feel guilty. Maybe she needs verbal appreciation, but learned to act like she did not care when it never came. Maybe she needs space to be imperfect, but spent years performing flawlessness because that was the only version others accepted. Her answer will surprise her as much as it surprises you, because she may not have spoken this need out loud in years. Here is what you do when she answers. Do not promise to fulfill the need. That comes across as desperate, as trying too hard. Instead, say this: that should never have been taken from you. That single sentence validates without obligating. It honors the need without creating pressure. And here is the deeper psychology. When someone articulates a need they have suppressed, and that need is met with acceptance rather than judgment, they experience what Freud called a corrective emotional experience. The old wound begins to heal. The old story begins to rewrite. And you become part of that new story. Not because you fixed anything, but because you saw what others refused to see. 6 questions complete. You have entered deeper than most men go in months of knowing someone, but question 7 is the one I mentioned at the beginning. The one that plants you in her memory permanently. This is where everything changes. This is the question I promised you at the start. The one that plants you in her memory for months, sometimes years. I have used this question dozens of times. Every single time, the woman paused. Her eyes shifted. Something unlocked. Pay close attention to the delivery. The words matter, but the timing matters more. Question 7. When was the last time you felt completely free? Freedom is the deepest human craving. Not financial freedom. Not freedom from responsibility. The kind of freedom that lives in a moment. A single experience where every weight lifted. Every expectation dissolved. Every mask fell away. Jung wrote extensively about the persona, the social mask we construct to navigate the world. We become so attached to this mask that we forget it is not our true face. But there are moments when the mask slips, when we taste who we actually are beneath the performance. Maybe she felt it traveling alone in a foreign city. No one knew her name. No one expected anything. She could be anyone. Maybe she felt it dancing at a concert, lost in the music, lost in her body, lost in pure sensation without thought. Maybe she felt it in a conversation that went until sunrise, words flowing without filter, connection without calculation. Whatever her answer, it reveals her essence, not who she pretends to be, who she actually is when nothing holds her back. Here is why this question is so powerful. When she recalls that moment of freedom, she does not just remember it, she re-experiences it. The emotions return, the sensations echo. Her nervous system activates as if she were there again. And you are present when this happens. Psychologically, her brain begins to associate you with that feeling. You become linked to her freedom, her joy, her most authentic self. This is not manipulation. This is emotional architecture. Machiavelli understood that associations drive perception more than facts. The prince who is present during celebration is loved. The prince who is present during suffering is resented. Presence during positive emotional states creates positive emotional bonds. You are choosing to be present during her memory of freedom. Here is exactly how to deliver this question. Slow your voice. Drop your tone slightly. Create space around the words. When was the last time you felt completely free? Then wait. Do not rush her. This question requires her to search, to travel back through her experiences, to locate the moment. When she finds it, her face will change. Watch for it. Then ask one follow-up only. What made that moment different from everything else? Now she is analyzing her own psychology. She is discovering what conditions create her freedom. And she is doing this exploration with you as her witness. Schopenhauer wrote that the human will seeks liberation above all else. When you become associated with her liberation, you become precious. Not because of what you gave her, because of what you helped her remember about herself. Now, the next two questions shift the dynamic. These are faster, lighter. But do not mistake lightness for weakness. Question 8. What is something you love that you think you should have outgrown? This question brings play into the conversation. Every adult carries secret attachments to things they feel too old to enjoy. Cartoons from childhood, a stuffed animal hidden in the closet, a song that should embarrass them but still makes them happy. Society teaches us to abandon these things, to mature, to become serious people with serious interests. But the truth? These hidden loves reveal something pure, uncorrupted. A direct line to who she was before the world told her who to become. Plato spoke of anamnesis, the idea that learning is actually remembering what the soul already knows. When she admits her secret love, she is remembering a part of herself she was taught to forget. And your response matters everything. Do not mock. Do not tease cruelly. Do not make her regret the admission. Instead, lean in with genuine curiosity. Tell me more about that. When did it start? Now she is sharing origin stories, childhood memories, the texture of her early life. And she is smiling while she does it. This question creates lightness without losing depth, playfulness without abandoning meaning. It shows her that connection with you can include joy. Not everything has to be heavy. Not every moment has to be serious. The man who can move between depth and lightness is rare. Women remember him because he contains multitudes. Question 9. What is a rule you have for your life that you never break? This question reveals her code. Every person lives by invisible rules. Boundaries they refuse to cross. Standards they hold regardless of circumstance. Maybe she never lies about her feelings. Maybe she always keeps her promises. Maybe she refuses to stay where she is not valued. Her answer tells you what she protects, what she considers sacred. What lines define her integrity? Marcus Aurelius built his entire philosophy around personal rules. The Meditations are essentially a guidebook for self-governance. He understood that character is not revealed by words, but by the lines we refuse to cross. When she shares her rule, you see her character architecture. And here is the strategic value. Now you know what behavior she will never tolerate, what actions would disqualify you instantly, what standards you must meet to remain in her world. Most men never learn this. They stumble into violations. They cross lines they did not know existed. They lose her and never understand why. But you asked. You listened. You mapped her boundaries before you could accidentally breach them. Here is your response when she shares her rule. I respect that. It tells me what matters to you. Simple. Direct. No judgment. No challenge. And if her rule aligns with your own values, say so. I hold something similar. That matters to me, too. Now you have found common ground. Shared principles. The foundation of genuine respect. Hobbes wrote that covenants without the sword are mere words. But covenants built on shared values, those have strength beyond enforcement. You are building a covenant. 9 questions complete. You now hold more tools than most men accumulate in a lifetime. But question 11 is the one I warned you about, the dangerous one. First, question 10 prepares the ground. Question 10. What is something you pretend to be okay with but are not? This question exposes the compromise. Every person carries silent tolerations, things they accept publicly while rejecting privately, situations they endure because fighting seems too costly. Maybe she pretends to be okay with her job, but feels her potential wasting away. Maybe she pretends to be okay with how a friend treats her, but carries resentment she never voices. Maybe she pretends to be okay with being single, but aches for connection she will not admit she wants. Nietzsche called this the gap between the public self and the private self. We perform acceptance while suffering resistance. We smile while we bleed. When you ask this question, you give her permission to stop pretending. Even if just for a moment. Even if just with you. And that permission is a gift most people never receive. Here is the psychology. Suppressed emotions do not disappear. They accumulate. They create pressure. They seek release. When someone finally voices what they have been pretending not to feel, the release is physical. You will see her exhale. Her shoulders might drop. Her face might soften. You created that release. Albert Ellis developed an entire therapeutic framework around identifying irrational tolerations. The things we tell ourselves we should accept, but that quietly destroy us from within. You are not her therapist, but you are offering what therapy offers. A space where truth can be spoken without consequence. Here is your response when she admits what she pretends about. You should not have to pretend about that. Direct. Validating. No advice, no solution. You are simply stating what she already knows, but nobody has acknowledged. And now she trusts you more, because you handled the truth without flinching. Now we arrive at the question I warned you about from the beginning. This one requires careful handling. Miss the execution, and she will withdraw, possibly permanently. But master it, and you reach a level of connection few men ever access. Question 11. What is something you want from men that you have stopped believing you will find? This is dangerous for one reason. It touches disappointment. Every woman carries accumulated letdowns from men who failed to show up. Men who promised and vanished. Men who seemed different but proved the same. Over time, these experiences calcify into belief. She stops expecting. She lowers her standards not because she wants to, but because hope became too painful. When you ask this question, you are asking her to reopen that wound. Done wrong, you become another man poking at her pain for his own curiosity. Done right, you become the man who finally understood. Here is how you do it right. First, frame the question with acknowledgement. Say this before you ask. I know this might be a difficult question. You do not have to answer if it feels too heavy. That frame does 2 things. It shows you understand the weight of what you are asking, and it gives her control. She can decline. She can deflect, but almost always she will answer. Because no one has asked, and she has been waiting to speak it. Her answer might be loyalty, consistency, emotional presence, follow through, depth instead of surface, patience, effort. Whatever she says, it carries years of disappointment behind it. Here is the critical moment. Do not promise to be different. Most men hear this answer and immediately try to position themselves as the exception. I am not like that. I would never do that. This backfires completely. Why? Because every man before you said the same thing. Words mean nothing anymore. She has heard the promises. She watched them evaporate. Instead, say this: I hear you. That should not be rare. But I understand why you stopped expecting it. You validated without promising. You acknowledged without selling. And here is the Machiavellian truth. Actions over time are the only proof that matters. She will watch what you do, not what you say. Your behavior in the weeks and months ahead will either confirm or contradict. By not promising, you avoided the trap of words. You left space for your actions to speak. Freud observed that the unconscious remembers every broken promise. It builds walls accordingly. You cannot talk your way through those walls. You can only act your way through. This question opens a door. Your future behavior determines whether you walk through it. Question 12. What is a version of yourself you miss? This question touches nostalgia without sentimentality. We all carry memories of who we used to be, versions of ourselves that felt more alive, more hopeful, more free. Maybe she misses the version that believed in love without cynicism. Maybe she misses the version that took risks without calculating consequences. Maybe she misses the version that laughed easily and trusted openly. Jung called this encountering the lost self. Parts of our psyche that we abandon to survive, to fit in, to protect ourselves from further pain. When she answers, she is not just remembering a past self, she is grieving it. Your job is not to tell her she can get it back. That is not your place. Your job is to witness the grief without minimizing it. Say this: she sounds like she was something special. What happened? Now she tells the story, the event, the series of events, the slow erosion that cost her that version of herself. And you listen. You hold the space. You honor the loss. Schopenhauer wrote that every parting is a foretaste of death. When we lose a version of ourselves, we experience a small death. Someone who understands this truth can sit with us in that loss. You become that person, not by fixing, by witnessing. 12 questions complete. You now hold psychological tools that most men will never discover. 3 questions remain, and they will cement everything you have built. Question 13. What would your younger self think of who you have become? This question creates a confrontation across time. Every person carries an internal image of who they plan to be. The dreams they held at 18. The promises they made to themselves. The vision of adulthood they imagined before reality intervened. When you ask this question, you force a comparison. The imagined future versus the actual present. Sometimes the answer brings pride. She exceeded her own expectations. She built more than she dreamed. Sometimes the answer brings grief. She compromised. She settled. She became someone her younger self would not recognize. Most often the answer brings both. Pride and grief braided together. Jung spoke of individuation. The process of becoming who we were, always meant to be. But this process involves confronting the gap between potential and reality, between who we could have been and who we chose to become. When she answers this question, she is doing that confrontation in your presence. Here is why this matters. Most people avoid this reflection. It is uncomfortable. It demands honesty. They would rather escape. You are creating a space where avoidance is not necessary, where she can look at herself fully, the victories and the failures, the growth and the loss. Here is your response. If she expresses pride, say this: that took discipline. Most people let their younger self down. If she expresses grief, say this: you are not finished yet. That version is still possible. Both responses honor her truth without judgment. One validates her achievement. The other preserves her possibility. And here is the deeper effect. When someone witnesses our self-confrontation without looking away, they become safe, permanently safe. We know they can handle our complexity, our contradictions, our unfinished becoming. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we are what we repeatedly do, but he also understood that identity is never fixed. We are always in motion, always capable of returning to abandoned versions of ourselves. You remind her of that truth simply by asking. Two questions remain. These final two will seal everything you have built tonight. Question 14. What is the most important lesson love has taught you? This question goes directly to her romantic history. Every woman carries lessons from past relationships. Knowledge purchased with pain. Wisdom earned through heartbreak. Maybe love taught her that words without action mean nothing. Maybe love taught her that she cannot save someone who does not want saving. Maybe love taught her that she is stronger alone than with the wrong person. Whatever the lesson, it shapes how she approaches every new connection, including this one with you. Robert Greene writes about the importance of understanding someone's romantic past. Not the details, not the names, the lessons, because the lessons predict the future. If love taught her that men leave, she will watch for signs of departure. If love taught her that passion fades, she will value stability over intensity. If love taught her that she loses herself in relationships, she will guard her independence fiercely. Her answer gives you her operating system. Now you understand what she protects, what she fears, what she secretly hopes might be different this time. Here is how you respond. Do not compare yourself to her past. Do not position yourself as the correction to previous mistakes. Simply say this. That sounds like it cost you something to learn. You acknowledged the price. You honored the journey. You did not make it about you. And then ask one follow-up. Do you think the lesson was worth the cost? Now she reflects deeper. She weighs her pain against her growth. She decides if the suffering served her. This is profound intimacy. You are walking through her romantic history as a respectful witness, not a judge, not a competitor, a witness. Freud understood that our romantic patterns repeat until we become conscious of them. By helping her articulate her lessons, you help her become conscious. And consciousness is where change becomes possible. Question 15. What do you want someone to understand about you without you having to explain it? This is the final question, and it is the most powerful. Every person carries a deep exhaustion from explaining themselves, justifying their choices, defending their nature, translating their inner world into words that others might finally understand. This question asks what she wishes someone would simply know. Maybe she wants someone to understand that her silence is not anger. Maybe she wants someone to understand that her independence is not rejection. Maybe she wants someone to understand that her intensity comes from caring too much, not too little. Whatever she answers, it is the key to her. The thing she has explained 100 times and is tired of explaining. When you ask this question, you are saying something without words. I want to understand you that deeply. I want to see you without requiring translation. This is what Schopenhauer meant when he wrote about the rarity of being truly known. Most people pass through life unseen. They perform. They explain. They remain strangers even to those closest to them. You are offering to end that isolation. Here is your response, and this one matters more than any other. After she answers, pause for 3 full seconds. Let the weight of her words fill the space. Then say only this. I will remember that. 4 words. but they carry everything. You heard her. You took her truth seriously. You committed it to memory. Not I understand. Understanding can be faked. I will remember. Remembering requires intention. It requires her to matter enough to hold in your mind. And in that moment, you become different from every man who let her words evaporate. 15 questions. Not tricks, not techniques, not manipulation. Psychological keys that unlock what most men never see. Machiavelli wrote that the wise man learns more from his enemies than the fool learns from his friends. But there is a deeper truth. The wise man learns most from the questions he dares to ask. Tonight you received tools most men spend their entire lives without discovering. Questions that create depth, connection, memory. But knowledge without action is worthless. So here is your test. Use one question this week. Just one. And watch what happens when you finally ask what no one else has dared to ask. The men who do this are rare. Be rare. If you like this video, smash that like button and subscribe. Can't wait to see you in the next one.